Hello and welcome back, future scientists. I'm Mr. K with Mississippi Public Broadcasting. We're going to continue our unit today talking about ecology. Specifically, we're going to talk about things known as greenhouse gases. Okay, this is probably something that you've heard of in the past, but maybe we're a little confused about, and we're going to try to clear that up and make sure we know what greenhouse gases are all about. So let's go ahead and get into it and see what we're talking about today. So what are greenhouse gases? Well, greenhouse gases are gases in the atmosphere that raise the temperature of the planet. Greenhouse gases absorb wavelengths of radiation that a planet emits. This traps the heat in the atmosphere instead of letting the heat disperse. The Earth is warmed by sunlight, causing the Earth to radiate heat, which is then absorbed by the greenhouse gases. So I'm going to give you all an analogy for this to make more sense, but for now just try your best to follow along and see if we can kind of wrap our head around this. So I wanted us to take a look at this picture. I got two pictures here, okay? So on the left, this is what we know is happening all day, right? The sun is warming the Earth. All of the warmth on the Earth comes from the sun, right? Okay, on the far right over there, that's what would happen if we had no greenhouse gases. What would happen is the sun would warm the Earth, and then the Earth would start to radiate some of that heat back off of itself, and that heat would just continue to move out to space. And what would happen in this situation is the average temperature on the Earth would actually be a lot lower. The average temperature would be about 0 degrees Fahrenheit with no greenhouse gases. Now, this is what happens when we do have greenhouse gases. What happens instead is the sun will warm the Earth. That warms the Earth. The warmth starts to radiate some of that heat away, but then the greenhouse gases start to redirect that heat. And instead of it going out to space, it gets redirected back at the Earth. So this is how the greenhouse gases keep the Earth warm. Now, greenhouse gases are actually a good thing. Like I said earlier, the greenhouse gases the Earth would be too cold without greenhouse gases, but too much can actually be a really bad thing. In fact, Venus has a runaway greenhouse effect, and Venus is the warmest planet in the solar system, even though Mercury is a lot closer to it. But with Venus, all of Venus's greenhouse gases, it's actually a lot hotter than the closest planet to the sun. So let's look at these greenhouse gases in a little bit more detail. So greenhouse gases play a vital role in keeping our planet warm enough to support life. With no greenhouse gases, the average temperature would be about 0 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the freezing point of water, and that means that life would have a lot harder time on the planet Earth. But too much greenhouse gases, however, warms the planet up too much, and that can be a bad thing. Okay? So the 5 most abundant greenhouse gases in Earth's atmosphere are water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and ozone. And the 3 that you really hear people talk about the most, or really the 2 that you hear people talk about the most, are carbon dioxide and ozone. Okay, and we're going to talk about carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas in a little bit of detail here over the next couple slides. So I want you to take a look at this picture here. Okay, what's going on is this is how much carbon dioxide is in Earth's atmosphere. Okay, this is coming from an observatory in Hawaii. So what you can see is that over the past 100 years, the amount of carbon dioxide in Earth's atmosphere has slowly started to increase. Now, this can have natural causes. We talked about some of those in the last video when we were talking about the carbon cycle, but these can also have human causes. So when we burn fossil fuels like gases in our cars to make our cars work, that's adding some carbon dioxide to Earth's atmosphere. And so from this picture, what I really want you to see is that overall, over the past 100 years, Earth's atmosphere has slowly started to get more and more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Okay, now let's compare this graph with this next graph. Okay, look at that black line. That black line represents the graph that we were just looking at, the CO2 concentration, how much carbon dioxide is in the atmosphere. Okay, well, this starts to take on a new significance when we realize the information behind it. When you look at the blue and red bars beyond that black line, the blue and red bars there represent Earth's temperature, the global average temperature on the Earth. And you can see that over the past 100 years, Earth's temperature has slowly started to increase as well. Especially look at that 1980s to 2000s portion of this map. You'll see that the black line and the average temperature of the globe really start to have a strong trend, right? A strong relationship. As the CO2 concentration starts to increase, the amount of the average temperature on the Earth tends to increase as well. So for scientists, this is a strong indication that these two factors are probably related. As CO2 in the atmosphere increases, Earth's temperature is increasing as well. And this should make sense to us because we know CO2, we know carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, and we know that it keeps the Earth a little bit warmer. So we can see that happening here in this graph. As the CO2 concentration starts to increase, the temperature of the Earth starts to increase as well. And I've already kind of explained what greenhouse gases do in a little bit of detail, but I wanted to give you an analogy here that helps people really wrap their head around how these greenhouse gases work. Okay? So how do greenhouse gases work? This is the analogy I want you to imagine, okay? Imagine a car on a hot day with the windows rolled up, okay? The windows will let the light from the sun in, right? So the light is coming into the car. When the light comes into the car, it strikes all the surfaces on the car, which warms it up, okay? And then because the windows are rolled up, the heat gets trapped inside the car, right? If the windows were rolled down when you came back to the car would be a lot less hot, right, if the windows were rolled down. So this is how greenhouse gases work. If you can imagine a car on a hot day, then you kind of understand how greenhouse gases work. And I wanted to just kind of walk you through this in a little bit of detail, okay? So the Earth, this car represents the Earth, okay? And what happens is when you leave your car out in the parking lot with no shade, that sun is going to start warming your car up, right? It starts to radiate heat, right? And when it's radiating heat, it's going to warm it up. So the sun is warming up this car, it's warming up the Earth, okay? Now the windows here are all rolled up, and that's going to let the heat in. And the greenhouse gases do the same thing. The windows here in this analogy are the greenhouse gases. The greenhouse gases let the heat in just fine. The light can go through that window and starts to warm up the car, right? Well, because the windows are rolled up, the heat doesn't really have anywhere to go. So it just kind of stays there in the car. That's what's happening with the greenhouse gases. The greenhouse gases are the windows. When all the windows are rolled up, when we have a lot of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, the heat can't escape. And so it stays put, right? But if we were to lower the windows down, or if we were to lower the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, then the car wouldn't be as hot, right? So this is just an analogy. If you can imagine how a car gets hot on a summer day with the windows rolled up, then you kind of understand how greenhouse gases work. Okay, so that's just kind of an overview of how these greenhouse gases work. Again, they're kind of like windows on a car. If that makes sense to you, that's basically what's going on here with these greenhouse gases. So thank you so much for being here today. Your teacher has some other work for you to do, so make sure to give that your best effort, and I hope everybody has a great day.